Okay. Here we go. 6.0, reconvene open session, procedural business, 5:30 p.m. 6.1, call to order. The Board of Trustees are hereby reconvening open session at 5:36 p.m. 6.2, roll call. Trustees to identify themselves by first and last name to formally establish quorum. Dana Ridland, Area 2.
Cindy Gardner, Area 3.
Jordan Girardi, trustee area 5, Running Springs, Arrowhead Lake, Green Valley Lake.
Bill Mellinger, trustee area 1.
Natalie Lindeman, trustee area 4. And for the minutes, as far as closed session, Dr. Lindeman arrived at 4:16 p.m. Okay, 6.3, Pledge of Allegiance. Oh my goodness. Mrs. Humphries, would you be willing to lead us in the pledge?
Right hand over your heart, ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
6.4, retiree celebration. Todd Beal will present plaques to retirees and a short celebration break will follow.
Mark, if I push it down, it stays down?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, good evening, everybody. This is actually kind of nice. There are people here in the boardroom, so it's actually great to see. Actually a good celebration today too, because what we're focusing on right now is going to be our retirees. We know it's a big moment in their life, and that step that they get to move forward to. It's always a little nerve-wracking, it's nervous. But I've always been told those that retire from education don't realize they're retired until they come back, well, until school comes back and they're not there. It's that final feeling of, oh my God, this is real. So to start off with just a little speech for everybody here. Again, it's an extreme honor to recognize nice retirees. A retirement is a time of celebration, a time to recognize the accomplishments of those that spend a career Rim of the World Unified School District. Our distinguished employees have put in anywhere from 7 to 29 years of their lives and career in which they have affected so many. A career in education provides an opportunity no other career can, an ability to help mold the futures of the next generation and by their influence, many generations after. Poet Robert Frost is famously quoted as writing, "Two words diverged in a wood and I one less traveled." And that has made all the difference. There was something about taking a less traveled path, a sense of adventure, the feeling of excitement, and the idea of wonder. These are the same feelings I'm sure our honored guests will experience as they venture into the serene world of retirement. We wish you all, as well as your family, your new path in this life and hope and joy for the rest of your life. On behalf of Rim of the World Unified School District's Board of Education and Superintendent Michelle Murphy, we wish to thank the following Rim family members for the dedication and service to the district and the positive impact they have made. I know not all of our retirees are here today, but I will call your name. When I do, please come on up. We do have a special something for you to show you. So this will be our little gift from the district that we have for all our retirees. Has the name, the years of service that you dedicated, and the year in which the retirement date is for today. So let's call everybody up in a second. Okay, so first one I know it's here. Again, a veteran teacher, 14 years in our district, Tracy Olson. Valerie Morris. I know our next one's not here, but I want to recognize him is Dr. Thomas Crowfoot, our physics teacher. Our next individual we have on here, again, I'm not sure if you're here, but is Mrs. Heidi Erlinger, a teacher in our district for 18 years. And another big one for us, it's a big loss for our district as well. Spent 25 years in our district as a long time of dedication to our students and our families here. She definitely will be missed. Mrs. Marlon Humphreys.
Can you take these off?
Sure.
Thank you. Get a picture of everybody again.
All right, our next individual, she takes the cake for years of service for our retirees this year. 29 years of service in our child nutrition service worker, Debbie Maddox. Well, congratulations. Okay, our next one, 25 years of service in our child nutrition service worker, Bill Kiernan.
So yours. Thank you. Congratulations. It's Louise's. This is not.
Probably, yeah.
All right.
All right, so our next one on here, and I don't see her, Derek, I don't think she's here, but next one that we have on here for 26 years of service, her last position with us is administrative assistant to special services and Julie McAllister. Okay, and then our instructional assistant, 15 years in our district, Stacy Hodges. And then I think the one I messed up on, and I apologize. So our next one is going to be Billy Kieran. Thank you.
That'd be great.
So we got our retirees that are here. If we can come on up one more time, so we can have a little group shot of everybody.
In front of
The plastic beaker. Yeah, I think. So sad, so
Yes.
I know. You guys should be.
Retirees get in the
Yes.
front.
Yeah.
Let's get the line here.
You're kind of tall.
Squeeze in.
Oh, we're looking at which way are we looking? I'm behind.
Are we taking masks off?
Oh, yeah, yes.
Masks
Oh,
off.
shit, sorry.
Masks
Redo. Mask.
Okay, thank you.
We have cake.
We're going to take some time to thank them and congratulate them and get a cupcake.
Oh, my God.
Cindy, you should be
coming with me. I'm not in, I don't have. Just give me your He goes, Mom, no time. Yeah.
Something else.
Stop right.
I've been getting a lot of.
Ready for the
The farmers market.
That's awesome. She could be in special effects. Yeah. Well, I know, everybody has. You never had those aspirations. As soon as possible. No, we're moving to Missouri, June 30th. We just got
Cupcakes are from everybody.
now we're making the series. She said to her years, so we watched all this video. Yeah. Yes. Yes. That's like, I mean, we love them. We love them. But it's like, there's a reason we're going, and it's for family. Come on, it's been a great place. We can give you CHE. Thank you.
Yeah, are you getting?
Yeah.
Turn everyone's. Good thing we have our masks, right, Mike?
Yes.
We'll take a picture again after. Not blue line.
You're fine.
You have a little bit on your lower lip. Yep. Did you get it? Where's trash, Mark? You have trash?
Well, you didn't have to take pictures.
I don't mind.
I wish that worked when I was teaching. Where was that for 14 years?
Texting your work? You texting it? No. My phone's off.
So Rin is playing Sanji right now, basketball. And last I heard, Rin is ahead. And I think Natalie is getting our latest updates. So when she's here, we'll go ahead and get started. There she is.
Yay, Natalie!
And the score?
32-17.
All right.
That's a big outfit.
Okay, so moving on to 7.0, closed session report. 7.1, announcement of reportable actions taken during closed session.
None.
8.0, public testimony.
None.
8.3, RTA and CSCA representatives. Mr. Bear, RTA.
Pushing buttons.
You push it over, it'll stay.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to come in this evening. I want to, well, every 2 years, room teachers has our election for the executive board. And we just had that in May. And we're going to have a new e-board. So I wanted to introduce them to you tonight. So I might have a little bit of problems with names, but we'll see. And all good things must come to an end. I've been president for 4 years, and Mr. Beal missing about how he came into the district and had to declare impasse against the Teachers Association, which really wasn't a fun thing to deal with. But we learned a lot and dealt with it and came out better. And this year has obviously been a big challenge. So I'm very pleased to introduce Ms. Ngozi Leather as RTA president. Amanda Markovich is staying on as vice president. Ms. Bobby Berteau as RTA secretary. And Ms. Gigi Dosey as treasurer. Be nice. And let's work together. Thank you.
Red, blue. Your teeth are blue? She's got school spirit.
Thank you, Mr. Bear, and welcome to the new e-board. CSCA, do we have anybody here from the CSCA?
Yes, Suzanne's on Zoom.
Hi, Suzanne.
Good evening.
Good evening, we can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good evening, thank you. While there has been a lot to complain about this year, I see that there are some great things on the action calendar. And we could not let this time go by without thanking the board for giving direction to the district and acknowledging the work and service that is provided by classified workers during the pandemic. And so we gratefully thank you for the stipend that is on the agenda tonight. And we just wanted to take a minute and say thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Suzanne, and thanks to all of the CSEA members for all of their hard work for the district. 9.0 Governing Board Members Reports and Announcements. 9.1 Governing Board Members. So, Natalie, do you want to go ahead and give it a start?
So good evening. Congratulations again, and thank you to all of the retirees. All of supported us through this year. We've talked about the challenges that everybody is well aware of. As we look into the new school year, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was our PTA and our support that we need from our parents. I started my adult journey in our district through PTA with Meet the Masters and then various roles at the school sites and the Mountain Council area PTA. And right now, all of our PTAs are really struggling to find new volunteers. For me, it was a way to, one, connect with the school, know what my child was doing, but also to connect with the community. I definitely learned a lot of great skills, and I developed as a human through being part of PTA. I felt like it gave me a lot of challenges, but opportunities for growth, and it did the same for my family. And hopefully, like, that contribution back mattered. I know it did to a lot of people at the school sites, and I appreciate that. So I find it very rewarding work, and I hope that parents who are listening choose to step up and get involved in our PTAs. Again, every school site and Mountain Area Council is in need of volunteers for almost all positions. So please look for flyers or notifications that are going out. If you have any questions, you could reach out to either myself or Cindy. We're both very involved in PTA still. And the site principals can also point you in the correct direction for that. But no matter what your skill set is or your interest level is, there's something for you to do on site as a parent to contribute back to the school community. And I would hope that everybody steps up to do that. And that is all I have for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Bill, would you like to go next?
Good evening as well. And I believe the word is congratulations to retirees. I know God bless you as you start your new adventures and new opportunities, new seasons, and like some of the rest of us, or I guess I'm the only one, get to enjoy some grandparent time too, maybe as well. So my wife is retiring on May 28th after 46 years in education. She has a lifetime credential here in California. When we came back from Arizona, she actually wrote a letter to the credentialing group and saying, I have a lifetime credential. What does that mean? She got a note back. Lifetime credential means you have a lifetime credential. As she will be learning, you're learning what it's going to be like to have new opportunities, to do new things. And so congratulations. I technically retired last year. And so I started learning how to play guitar. No, I'm taking guitar lessons. I don't know if I've learned how to play anything yet, and I volunteered to be on the school board. So who knows what might happen to you when you go into retirement. I'd like to totally change gears, and that is I've lost track now of how many hours in the last few weeks studying finance. I've been the master's in governance. I'm in the finance course there. And then several meetings, another one today, 3 hours long, learning about the state budget and the governor's budget, or preliminary planned budget, however you want to refer to it, whatever might be coming. I'm pleased that we have funds that are coming in on a one-time basis that are going to make a difference, and hopefully with some of the learning, what's our term we're using now, Jordan? Our learning recovery. But more than that, I'm concerned. I'm concerned that after these one-time monies come in and we get significant, in some ways, huge funds for a short time, concerned that the cliff will be even greater in 2 years. And that by then, the attendance numbers, the ADA numbers may be even more significant. We'll suddenly have to deal with those numbers. And I'm very concerned about how we will deal with that in a couple of years down the road. I'm thrilled that we were able to make it possible that an administration, thank you, that we were able to make it possible to bring our RIF teachers back. But I'm really concerned about what the future holds for us, and we're going to have to really be wise, and we'll still have to make some tough decisions in the future. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Jordan?
Good evening. I would like to echo the sentiments of congratulations to those that are retiring. And I would also like to say a hearty congratulations to RTA's new e-board for stepping up and running for something that can be difficult. So I appreciate those that have stepped up to the plate and those that are going to continue on. And I will also say that the May revise was very interesting thing to go through this morning. It was all virtual, but it was packed full of information. There's going to be a lot for us as school boards and a lot, especially for Jenny, to digest over the next while before that budget comes more to reality. I think top level just saying, there are a lot of good news, there's a lot of good news and there's a lot of uncertain news. California school budgets have been relatively risk averse over the last several years for a while. And this is the first time that we're getting a budget that is more risky. And what that outlook means for school districts, we don't know. It depends on what the future holds. So we'll be digesting all of that. I'll tell you, if you would like to learn any of those details, you should come and talk to one of us, because we've got a lot of, I think in talking with some board members, we've each debriefed in a way where we pulled 1 or 2 or 3, 4 different things that are different from the other board members. So it's worth talking to all of us to figure out, get the whole picture of it. I'll just end it there by saying, if you have questions, if you want to talk about anything else, as always, come and reach out to us, email us. I'm always at the Running Springs Farmers Market in the Running Springs Chamber booth. So if you wanted to hash it out with me in person and talk to me about whatever's on your mind, talk about the school budgets in the future, I'll be there almost every weekend. I'm more than happy to talk with you. I know I see some group employees there every weekend, and it's always nice to see them. Or if you prefer, you can send me an email and we can have a phone call or whatever your preference might be. So thank you.
Thanks, Jordan. Cindy? I too want to congratulate the retirees. Awesome. We're going to have a new chapter. That's going to be exciting. I do want to thank the outgoing RTA board members, Mr. Bear and the others, because you have traversed some difficult waters and something unprecedented in this last year and a half. So we appreciate working with you during these times. So thank you. And I'm sure you're not going to miss those phone calls and your voicemail being full every 2 hours. So I'm sure, Mr. Barry, you'll get a little bit more sleep. So, and I know that Marquesa is going to be super happy. So, yeah, for you. Is for the budget. Yeah, there's a couple things for me. This was my 3rd budget workshop. I had an extensive budget workshop at the CSBA Delegate Assembly this weekend. The thing is that you hear all this good news. You're going to get one-time monies in this. We're going to get $5 billion for this and $1 billion for that. Except those monies, a lot of the pots are for concentration. They're going to be released through the concentration UPP. For RIM, that is not, we're the loser again in these pots of money. We have a program of $1 billion that increases every year to a 5 billion amount. And it's going to be released through the concentration grant money. And it's for expanding after school and before school programs and summer school. And your UPP, that's unduplicated student count, sorry for using acronyms. The first year, it's for those districts with 80% or above UPP, 80%. Then the second year is 70% and above, and then it goes on until full implementation. Where's RIM in this? We're at 56, 58%, something like that. Yeah, we're not the winner of the $5 billion pot. We're not also the winner of the 2.6 billion one-time funding to accelerate learning and high dose tutoring, because again, that is going through concentration grant. And you have to be above 55%, but we're just barely, so we are not the winners in that pot of money. Another concern is that all these really cool things in the budget, where did that money come from besides the increased revenue? Well, the governor still is not intending to pay down the $2.6 billion June 2022 deferral. It's like not paying down your credit card when you have a raise or you got a pot of money, you won the lottery, not paying down your credit card debt. That was a good analogy, Jenny. And so we are still going to be facing that deferral. And why? Why, when we have revenue, are we still facing a deferral? I don't understand why that wasn't paid down. And one part of that is by holding back that money, the governor gets to do the expanded learning program and the after school program, except that RIM isn't going to be part of that. So it's almost like we got quadrupled hit with the losers of 3 pots of money plus the deferral. So that was really disappointing. Again, that deferral we still face. A lot of money is focused on mental health, which we really are happy with. Basically, every student that will need mental health services will get mental health services. At least that's the intent of the money. We'll see how that actually works out, because the devil's in the details, as they say. The governor's TK program, he's going towards universal preschool. And while that is very notable and a great lofty goal, the issue is that he's dedicated $2.7 billion to phase it in. The problem is, what happens after it phases in and you are running a preschool program? You have to rebench Prop 98 so that TK becomes an additional grade. Otherwise, you are stealing money from K through 12 to pay for your preschool program. So again, CSBA and SANDAGS, which is the county legislative advocacy group I'm part of, Capital Advisors is our lobbyist. They are lobbying for clarification of these issues. SANDAGS, we had a discussion when there was a preliminary discussion of all this money going through concentration and how they're not only our district, I mean, Port Etiwanda, they're at 54%. And so yet we have to service, we might actually have the same number of classrooms and teachers, but we have to pay out of general fund and not the boom money. So that is a concern of SANDAGS. Going forward is maybe having a dialogue about talking about how that money is to be used and dispersed. There's 2 more of the PERS. It was brought down for 2 years. Guess what? So it's been at 16.9%, something like that. Now it's going to jump to 19% in a year. And so that is a huge increase. Our unemployment insurance is going from 0.02, 01. sorry. And so it's going to jump like 4,000% basically and what it equates in the webinar today, what we learned is that it equates to basically a 1% salary increase for teachers. That's now in step and common. Yeah. So now that's going to go to unemployment insurance, which is unfortunate. And then the last piece is the COLA, the infamous COLA. So we didn't get COLA this year. This year's COLA was put into next year's COLA for a 3.6 COLA, a compacted COLA. All the districts, last Friday night, we had a District 16 caucus, a delegate assembly caucus before the delegate assembly so that all of our districts could really hash out our concerns as a county. And be able to communicate that during delegate assembly. And one thing is that a lot of us were at negotiations table with the 3.6% COLA, even though we didn't receive any of the COLA in this year. So in looking ahead at the, what's termed the mega COLA at 5.07%, I'm throwing a lot of numbers, but the concern is inflation, the increase in PERS and STRS, because STRS is also increasing, the normal acceleration of costs for utilities and for those insurance, and then the unemployment insurance increase. All of a sudden, it's like that little bit between the 3.6 and the 5.07, it's not so great. You realize that it's eaten up by all those costs, and you just go, okay, well, it's a good budget. I'm grateful. It is. There's a lot of good news in it, but at the same time, for districts like ours, some of it is disappointing because again, it's just like on LCFF. How did we come out the loser end of all these billions and billions of dollars, and yet we are getting hit with the same increases in PERS and STRS and unemployment insurance. And so that just sort of, I was excited. And then when you get into the details, you realize, I mean, literally my little packet from the delegate assembly, rim loser, rim loser, rim loser. And it was, I really, that's what it translated to. And I started getting, well, I almost cried because it was just so disappointing. So on better news, I really am excited about the end of the year activities at the school sites, at the high school. I'm really excited that at RIM High School, as well as Mountain High School, they are having things for seniors. Their barbecues, June 2nd is the senior barbecue and assembly at RIM High. So the seniors get to do their assembly, and they get to go to the barbecue where the staff meet their hamburgers and hot dogs. They get to sign yearbooks. PTA is going to have tile painting so they can leave their mark on the school, and then they get to walk away with their community gift baskets. So, I mean, those things make me so happy. And I'm really excited that there are some end of the year activities that are taking place. Prom tomorrow, can't dance, but thank God for Sky Park stepping up to the plate and working with us. So I'm just saying is that this time of the year is always saying, oh, it's scholarship night. I'm super excited about scholarship night. Oh, I know who's getting scholarship. I'm so happy. It's like a secret at Christmas. And so anyways, all the end of the year stuff really makes me happy, really makes me smile. And so even though there was a lot of disappointing news over the last 4 days, I'm looking forward to participating in all those activities. And I want to thank all the teachers, all the classified, Jim, for putting up with my millions of texts this year about painting. And I'm really grateful for all of you for getting to this point with us and getting to the finish line the best that we can and making it the best we can for students. So there you go. I'm going to end on happy. Thanks, Cindy. I'll go ahead and kind of reiterate a little bit of what Cindy just said in terms of the budget. And to bottom line it from what I saw is for those things that are recurring costs, we're going basically be getting less money for our continuing costs for over time. We will be receiving, though, in terms of being able to support our programs. In the next couple of years, we're going to be through COVID monies and probably through real estate sales, receive one-time monies that will be sizable, but they will be one time. So come back to that in a moment in terms of how it got me thinking today. I just want to make sure that I express my appreciation to the retirees for the years of service they put into the district. I know they're going to be moving on to wonderful things, but I also know that they've already made an impact on our community, and so I wish them well. And just want to express my appreciation. And also, like I said earlier, we welcome the new e-board for RTA. Their work is cut out for them because they are representing a very diverse and hardworking population, and it is a really difficult job. So I wish them well. So today was an interesting day in that this morning spent 3 hours with hearing about the May revise from the governor and getting a lot of news that was kind of overwhelming. Also this week, I received a couple of emails and texts regarding math curriculum. And we're in the midst at the state level of a new math framework being written and approved, the 2021 math framework. And this would be the third math framework in 3 decades that I've read. That I'm in the process of reading. So also today we received an email, CSBA sends out frequent news updates, and they kind of just have a little blurb about what a certain newspaper or news entity has said related to education. So one of the emails I got today was talking about California and reimagining math instruction. It's an LA Times article. So I saw this coupled with the emails and texts that I got, kind of got a knot in my stomach, read the article, was very worried, and proceeded to then go to the California Department of Education's website where the draft of the math framework is there. And it actually has passed the first hurdle of approval at the state level. And I was very anxious starting to read it, thinking this is going to really, ruin my day. And I'm almost finished with the second chapter, so I'm not that far along. But in the intro and what I've seen so far, I'm surprisingly excited by what I'm seeing. It's something that I'm actually kind of invigorated by. And I couple that with knowing that we have some one-time money that is coming into the district. COVID has really sucked, and there's been a lot of reimagining in society in the past year or two that some is just kind of overwhelming. I think right now we're in the middle of a form of revolution in education. We this year for RIM experienced one-to-one technology with our students, which was something we thought was going to be happening sometime in the next 5 years. We have teachers across the country, across the world, have been thrown into distance learning situations, which has really been horrible, but also has been really wonderful. I think teachers have learned so much more about technology as a tool, but not being able to be face-to-face with their students has been an absolute nightmare. Somewhere in there has been some nuggets that we can grab to be able to see how we might be able to leverage them for the future. And looking through what I've seen so far of the math framework, it's got me thinking. We have been a textbook-driven society for decades. Our education process is kind of a relic from the Industrial Revolution in terms of how we approach education. And what I'm going to challenge the district to do, and I don't have any, this is not an edict, this is not a we should, but it's more imagine what we should be doing with the money that we have coming to us that's one time only, that 10, 15 years from now, we're not going to be kicking ourselves for not considering. We need to use our imagination. We need to figure out how we could take the best of what technology has to offer, take the best of what is included in the math framework so far that I've been really excited about is the neuropsychology approach to seeing how people learn, watching actual brain activity when math concepts are being presented to students, and realizing that what we formerly had thought were unteachable concepts, depending on our strategies for teaching, Stanford researchers are seeing actual learning taking place by seeing synapses forming in brains. It's pretty crazy. But if we open up our our minds to looking at education differently as a staff and as a district, this might actually prove an opportunity to relook at how we're offering instruction, maybe not be strictly textbook driven, take a look at other resources and use this time to imagine and pursue other possibilities. So this has been, I mean, starting with this Los Angeles Times article and other emails and starting to dive into the framework, I'm really excited for what I'm seeing and that I think that we could possibly provide stellar solutions to all of our students in the future if we take some risk and possibly do some experimenting in a moderate way to see what we can be successful at. So I'm going to close that, my discussion with that. I'm really excited. And honestly, I've never been excited reading a math framework in the past. This is really cool. Yay. Yeah. I didn't button. So I will now turn it over to Michelle, 9.2, Superintendent.
I'm going to start my report with some thank yous and end with some thank yous. I'd like to thank Mr. Whitesell for having me in this class, and I got to dance with the students and Spanish and had some fun with some kids. So Tori and I both danced. I think he has it on video, which might come to haunt me in the future, but I did my best for line dancing in Spanish. So thank you for having me in. Thank you to Mark, Heather, and Tracy for your service to our teachers on the e-board and to us as a cabinet. We appreciate you. And welcome to the new e-board. I'd like to recognize our retirees again and thank you for your years of service to RIN. Thank you to RTA leadership and the board for attending the May revision workshop. It just helps so much when we all have the same information and are trying to digest it together. So working together was great today. So we appreciated that. Though I was on 2 Zooms at once for part of it because I have the state superintendent meetings every Thursday. I'd like to say that my Wellness Wednesday emails have gotten a very favorable response from our employees and sharing personal things with me and talking about wellness as a focus has been very positive that I've seen. So thank you for reading those. I'd like to talk a little bit about what we're hearing about guideline changes. So we know that the governor has said some things, but the actual guidelines aren't in writing yet. We know that the expectations are that all schools return to 5 days of in-person instruction and distance learning will not be an option after June 15th. They are looking at the only option for families as independent study, but looking at redefining what independent study is that would include some things like we're doing in distance learning. So there's big debate over that, whether families would want a traditional independent study model or more of a distance learning model, and are we going to lose families because we're not doing it one way or doing it the other. So they're hashing that out in Sacramento, so we don't quite know yet. We do know that we had a vaccination clinic here last night, and the vaccinations are now available for anyone 12 and up. The latest that I've heard is ages 2 to 11 vaccinations should be available in September. I keep getting asked every day, can we take off our masks? Not in schools. And that is repeated over and over and over again from the meetings that I attend. So I know it's kind of come up in the news lately what other states are doing about masks. And so right now schools are to remain one of the few places that will have to wear masks next year, but that could change. Just like we went through a lot of changes this past year, I anticipate more one-page press releases coming from my office. So I will get information out when we get it. The soonest that we get it from what I've been told is June 15th. So after you're all hopefully on a nice vacation. I'm looking forward to the end of year events, Snow Valley prom, Adopt a Senior. So I think we have almost everyone adopted, or we need like how many more?
15 more kids to go.
15 more kids to go. So we're, and then we'll have all the kids at Mountain and Rim High School adopted. I'd like to thank State Superintendent Tony Thurman for reappointing me to the Scenic Board for another 2 to 3 year term. That board is a very technical board. One superintendent in the state is chosen for that board. I believe that's because I have a CTO background. That's why they've chosen me. But basically, in layman's terms, it provides the bandwidth or broadband internet for organizations, K-12 research organizations, places like Stanford, Caltech, those kind of things rely on the broadband that Scenic provides. And I'm a member of the 21-person board. We had a 3-hour board meeting yesterday, and we have a 3-day board meeting in July. So looking forward to that, but that's quite an honor for me. So I appreciate that honor. Mr. Beal and his crew have organized a job fair to recruit certificated and classified employees for June 5th here at the high school from 9 to 12. Is there anything you want to say about that, or did I do that fine? Okay, so we're looking forward to people attending that. And this is our last board meeting before school gets out. So our next board meeting, can you believe it, is June 10th. So I wanted to make sure that we thank all of our families, our students, and our employees for getting through a pandemic year. It's like none other in history. So thank you for all that you've done to get us to this point and to get to graduation, and for all your hard work. And we look forward to a fresh start next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. 10.0 reports and presentations. 10.1 finance, facilities, budget, and enrollment report. Jenny Haberlin, Chief Business Official.
Well, they didn't shock me, so that's good. I was gonna be scared there for a minute. So, well, thank you very much. So I actually have a pretty quick budget and enrollment report, because on June 10th, I'll probably be talking a lot. We'll have more information, and because that's when the budget hearing is going to be. But I do have a few notes about the May revise that I know many of you have already shared my sentiments or my thoughts on that as well. But just real quick, we will just where our enrollment is and what processes we're doing in business right now. Our enrollment's fairly stable this time of year. We're only one student down from the last reporting month, so we're at 2,873 students on our official month 9, and so really between month 8 and the end of the school year, we trickle up or down 1 or 2, so that's really typical. We're still not collecting, ADA for funding purposes because of the whole harmless language, but we have had to collect ADA in a sense for compliance, which being out of compliance could pose financial penalties. So right now we're in kind of the midst of our spring audit visit, which is being done virtually right now. Normally this kind of year, we would have 3 schools that are selected by our auditors, and they would spend a whole week at the different schools and really just inundate the staff during like the audit week. And right now, because it's virtually, we have some more time because they have really all summer. We can fit things up, we're not going, okay, you have to get this in the next hour. We have maybe a whole day for our sites to gather the information. The problem is that's just so much more intensive this year than under the SB 98 with the distance learning. And we were given the audit guides in March that compliance was back when we had to be compliant as of September 1st, but there wasn't audit guidance until March on, okay, what will the auditor's steps be? I mean, we knew the ed code that we had to be in compliance with, but actually when the auditors on the, in your office pulling documents, what actually would they be looking for as evidence of the different that supports we're in compliance with ed code? So that was the piece that we really didn't, know exactly. Well, last year we printed this report from Aries. Will it be that report or will it be something else? So our sites are probably struggling a little bit right now with the amount of work we've tasked them to do with pulling documents for our auditors. But when we've done our little mini audit, I feel very confident that what we were able to pull would have satisfied all of those of the evidence we were able to gather. It's probably more at the teacher level this year than they've ever felt it. And I don't think a teacher in a classroom usually knows when auditors are there. And this year it's so teacher driven because of the distance learning that we're having to ask teachers for things that we typically don't. So it's been new. We've been trying to shoulder some of it, but we just can't when it's proof of Google Classrooms and things like that. We just can't, we wouldn't be able to pull that information for them. So that's a little bit what's happening in business right now. We're preparing the budget. The May revise was a big piece of the work I'll be doing the next 2 weeks. And looking at all of the, what does it mean for rent? So, and when you look at the amount of money that is being put into, at the state level being distributed, it's at historic levels. I think it's what it combined with the federal, it's over 120 million or $1 billion would be this year. Yeah. And it's just incredible. So with the ESSERs and the 3 different pots of ESSER money, then we're still, we haven't been told how much of the third round of ESSERs we'll get, and that has some flexibility. So some of the things that, taking advantage and leveraging these dollars that convinces us, we can still use from 10 years from now is a good lens to put that on. So just some initial thoughts, too. Most of you said it all, what that I would share about the May revise. There is a lot of good news in it. There's a lot of, support for students in it. Unfortunately, a district like RIM may not be able to participate in some of these funding sources the way another district will because of the state focusing on concentration. Personal opinion is probably the governor, kind of missed an opportunity to really, shape how we fund education in the future by, he's repealed his promise to pay supplemental payments, which were funded at the minimum guarantee by the state constitution. We're fully funded at the state level means they funded us only at the minimum amount they have to by the state constitution. And so in the current budget, I think you all know, so I'm preaching to the choir, has in it a promise to pay more and a promise to get that Prop 98 percentage higher than what's shared with schools. And in both the January budget and this May revise, the governor has repealed that and said, well, I think, the reasoning I'm assuming is because, well, you're getting all this other money, I don't need to pay you more now. But the supplemental payments on that promise really sets we anticipated then that money going to base local control distributed evenly. So it really could pay for the average salary and not just the supplemental services. We're really going back to categorical way of thinking and not the local control. So it's almost like we'll play whatever game you want us to do, but if you want us to be LCFF and local control, but then you're shaping everything like a categorical. So it's really tough to be in, I think, our shoes right now because we're seeing what how we're funded on a base level, and then not every district gets to participate in the extras. So that was probably the most frustrating. I mean, an increase to the COLA is still an increase, and we're thankful for that. I'd rather have an increase, even if it's small, than a reduction in funding. So I think we're all on the same page there. So I think the budget proposal has what people are just, I think one person said it, now it's catching on, and it's in, I think, every budget presentation we look at. There's a lot of new shiny little new toys in this budget. A lot of this program for 1 to 3 years, or this program for 5 years. And then my biggest concern would be how do we sustain some of these if we're investing money and we have money for maybe start up a great program, But then in 3 years, when the funding goes away, a declining enrollment district like ours, where would that money come from? So that's the catch 22 of the budget that is really disappointing. I think Cindy, you already mentioned buying, also there, we were anticipating in February or March, the state would use some of this one-time money to make up the state unemployment percentage for us. I even think I probably jinxed this, so I said, well, we're anticipating the state to make that up. And instead it's like, well, we're going to increase you over 4,000%, but you can now use some of your COVID money and offset the cost for that. So I'm thankful we have some of this other COVID money, but now that COVID money is going to take away from maybe something special that we buy and leverage on.
Well, the thing that also with that, now I just lost let me start with the supplemental. The supplemental thing would have raised the Prop 98 from 38% to 40%, which is the ongoing money. And that's the whole point, is making sure that Prop 98 grows, because that's equitable distribution out to the districts. And then what were you saying about the EDD right before that?
That we anticipated, similar to STRS and PERS, that the state would buy down that with some of their windfall of money, instead of passing the costs on to the districts, and largely because school districts didn't have an opportunity to lay off. So we didn't participate in a large share of the folks who obtain those unemployment benefits. And so, we weren't necessarily the workforce or the industry that had those unemployment claims, although we're the part of the pool that's paying them.
And in stand-ups, the discussion was also that we didn't lay off people. Schools did not lay off people, yet we're bearing the brunt of it. And part of it was the amount of fraud that occurred as well. Well, again, we did not lay people off. Why are we bearing the responsibility of correcting it, the fraud that occurred as well? So that was another interesting conversation that went on.
Just a side note related to that is that it is going to be the employers who are still around who didn't lay off employees, who might be having a hard time finding employees right now, that are also having to pay the increased unemployment. So it's across the board in all industries in California, which is just really frustrating.
Yes. So I'm going to probably not talk, I think we've all touched on it a little bit tonight on the May revise, and I'll incorporate as we get more information into the budget hearing. Probably one of the biggest takeaways too, that we talked about before, like the expression, don't take our eye off the ball with, planning for the future, what happens with the cliff. Just the number of the California school districts that are in declining enrollment. One of the conferences over the last week said 60%, although I read EdSource, it was, they quoted 83% of districts. So it's somewhere, between what one speaker said and what another writer wrote. So, and then really with an influx of so much, because we will be, able to participate in some of this money, just not all the pots. So we'll have a spending plan, and at the same time, a reduction plan to plan for the next, 5 years on what happens with LCFF and declining enrollment. So, and it kind of boils down to defining what our core instruction is. I know Heather, we talked about that because of LCAP on, okay, what's our basic core and then what's supplemental. And just with the changes in the LCAP and then a lot of the one-time monies, we'll have to have a better idea of what we consider, as core only ed code minimums for a school district, and everything else is supplemental. So because then we can identify different pots of money and the supplemental concentration grant that has a little more accountability going into the future for that.
Something that Cindy mentioned that I just want to add with what you had said is inflation is also probably going to be a huge issue moving ahead. So while we are seeing COLA increase from what we had originally been told in January, and we're seeing increases in costs elsewhere, fuel costs, And
Yeah.
and so looking ahead, it's very possible that the increases that we have seen in terms of LCFF are going to be negated by increasing costs.
Our purchasing power is actually going to go down.
Right, and that's hard to predict, but that also adds to the uncertainty that we're looking at in the future.
I just wanted to touch on that California's declining enrollment that you brought up, because it is a huge issue. They quoted this morning that over the last year, California student enrollment has dropped 160,000 students. And the average year, it's been clocking a steady 30 to 40,000 students in declining enrollment. So this was a massive increase. Now, the caveat is, of course, we don't know how many of those students will be coming back to schools, public school districts, but 160,000 is a massive decrease. And so when Jenny's bringing up the fiscal cliff that's coming up, it's very real. If those 160,000 students don't come back and we resume the typical $30,000 to $40,000 student declining enrollment year over year, then that fiscal cliff is going to be very detrimental for schools.
You'll see in your board shared folder, there was an article from EdSource about the where the missing kindergartners go, really. And of that 160,000, 60,000 of them are in the kinder class. So because it's not mandated, is the kinder class just going to come in as kinders next year new or first grade because they've been just at home with mom and not doing distance learning, and then where will their learning gaps be? So tied to, we knew birth rates were low statewide. We knew birth rates were low in San Bernardino County. Certain populations that tend to have, more numbers of children aren't. So a couple with, okay, now, we did have just every meeting I'm going to, and districts are saying the same thing as the kindergarten classes. We had projected more kinders than shown up. So what will happen next year? It's the one area that we can just say, we don't know.
So it's confusing to me, and I went to the Meg for finance asked the same question, is as we are reducing enrollment, but the state is still receiving in basically the same tax revenue and income. Shouldn't there be proportionally more funding per student available from the budget because there are less students?
If they increase the base.
Yeah, they're not, but they're still the same. Yeah, so it's really, that's confounding to me.
Yeah, you're being logical.
And that's another, you bring up a good point, but as well, so if you're still facing declining enrollment, even if you're getting more per student, you're still getting less revenue overall.
Yeah. And one thing when you touched on deferrals, it is the deferrals, it's not necessarily written this way in INCO, but the practice of deferrals is when the state doesn't have cash. So they defer payments. It's just a big, an IOU to the districts. Districts like, okay, we're not going to take money away from you. We're just going to pay you next year. So then we borrow if we have to, and then get through that. So then we don't have to make budget cuts. It was to address cash flow problems, not just to buy something else. So that was it didn't sit well with a lot of finance folks too and boards when it's like, wait a minute, but that's not why there is deferrals. Deferrals are supposed to help in an emergency, not go, well, I'm just not gonna pay your June payment, I'm gonna pay you in July. Well, we have payroll that hits June 30th and July 1st and July 9th, and that payment from the state is coming to July 15th. We're gonna be okay in this June because we have the cash that hit, but a district that's heavily relies on state aid and not the property tax base, because you get the same amount of money, just your percentage, property taxes make up the first half, and then the state comes in with, we're higher, we get less state aid because of our property tax base. So we tend to have a safer zone for cash flow needs. So, but a district that might be 90% state aid, they're watching their cash a lot more closely than we have to. So, that would be that didn't throw me over, it threw me over the edge and just because I don't think it's the right thing to do, but it's not going to hurt us. It's just not the right thing.
It's the principle.
It's the principle of it. Thank you. It's getting a raise, but buying something else instead of paying your friend back for the money they borrowed from you. I'm gonna stay up here because Jim and I are next, but unless you have any more questions, that's.
Thank you. So I'll go ahead and do 10.2, facilities update. Jim Haviland, Chief Business Official, and Jim Zimmer, Maintenance Supervisor.
Okay, so I don't know, can you hear me? Because then we can decide what, not have to cover over the mic too much, but thank you. Oh, okay, all right, so we're giving you a facilities update. So Jim Zimmer, facilities maintenance supervisor. So things, one of the things we talked about, inflation, that's really going to impact stuff you can buy, you know, and as steel and parts and lumber to fix siding and all of that. Everything's going up. So yes. So next slide. Okay, so routine repair and maintenance requirements. We're required by Ed Code to deposit 3% of our expenditures each year into the routine repair and maintenance account. And that's a unique resource at the state. It gets audited. So 3%, we don't get any money for routine repair and maintenance, but we're obligated because we take state money for facilities, and we have taken state money for facilities, then we're required each year, after all of our expenditures are said and done, we need to have spent at least, we multiply that by 3%, and that's what we need to have spent on our facilities. And it's really in Ed Code to kind of force districts to not ignore facility needs. So that's really the intent of the Ed Code, is to say, okay, fixing broken windows and mowing the grass and a leaky pipe is important for students to learn, for sure. So, and one of the things with the one-time money, certain funds will be excluded from this calculation. So, or else we could get in a situation where, depending on how they fund the one-time, and then we spend those dollars, our 3% mandate may go higher. So they've already excluded the federal COVID funds. So depending on, and there's the state ones, but depending on these other one-time dollars, will that be an exclusion or not? So that could impact what the general fund out of its base contributes. Yes, we can get more things done. You wouldn't mind having a bigger budget, but then again, you know, that would impact, it's going to then come from somewhere on the unrestricted side. So watching the one-time funds also is, we have to watch closely on which ones we can exclude from this calculation. I mean, there's plenty of need, but we just have to be able to budget for it. Yeah. Okay, we have 5-year expenditure history and contribution from the base. And this is, we haven't finished, of course, June 30th, 2021, but we're budgeted to spend about $1.4 million in routine repair and maintenance account. This pays for maintenance salaries, ground salaries, our white fleet. It's paid the VOE project. It's not just necessarily the break fix work orders. Jim does a lot of projects with these dollars also, and we'll get to that in a couple of the slides with pictures. But you can see we had relatively over the last 3 years, we've been pretty stable and consistent with the amount of contributions that we put into this account. But we do have carryover from prior years that have been allowing us to spend in these areas, where next year, when we build the budget, unfortunately, the one-time money that we put in today or put in this year will be reduced from Jim's budget. So, but I think you're on track to spend every dime. So I even told him, I go, I'd rather you go over a little bit than not spend it, because we have things that need to get done. I saw your finger on it. Do you have a question?
So what percentage is that?
Pardon?
What percentage is that?
Is what? I'm sorry.
The 1.4.
Oh, gosh, that's probably around 4.5.
That's what I was.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Excellent. Okay, so we have just, Jim, you can butt in and if I'm messing anything up, but really work orders to date. The department serviced 947 work orders. They've assigned, or they received 947. We assigned 844 to staff. 48 we have declined, and it could have been because it's maybe something a custodian can do, or something that is really far reaching. Oh gosh, we have to have a board presentation and a bond maybe to help you with that. Yeah, so sometimes
some things that we just deny because it's not.
yeah, but they will try. So I mean, principals are advocates for their sites. So sometimes it's like Jim has called and said, "What do we do with this work order?" And I was like, "Oh no,
Can't get out of this.
yeah." So we have 36 currently in progress, and we have 7 being held over for summer work. We have no vandalism right now that you're cleaning up. So knock on wood. Yep. I may go later. And then we have currently 4 skilled maintenance workers, 2 skilled grounds, a shared administrative secretary, and our supervisor. All right, and Jim, I'll let you talk a little bit about these ones, but these are just some projects we've done at CG and BOE.
We did the rain gutters install, quite a bit of the areas that we had painted last year to make sure we protect all the new paint. We got the picnic table tops and benches replaced at CHE. Installed tetherball poles there, and then new chains and locks in the front part because of the trash and the snow.
Yeah.
We're still working on that, and a couple little hiccups. We're trying to get through that.
After a snowy weekend, I mean, all of our sites suffer that, but I think Hoffman is one of the worst, just the amount of dumping cars, just trash. It's horrible.
Hopefully this will cut down before next list. VOE, we put in 1 new bottle fill station. We put in a new HVAC unit in the Head Start portable. We had to do that because we own that one.
Yeah, Head Start pays us rent for the land and one of the portables that we own, and they own some of their.
We replaced the floor and tile in the outside portable restroom. We replaced turf underneath the swings in the main playground that got tore up again.
That's an area that we tend to have vandalism too at BOE is the playground.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe a couple times a year you've had to go to in the same spot.
Just right underneath the swings. So. And then right now, currently, we are replacing fascia, getting ready for paint this summer.
And the site has picked out, I know it's gonna look really nice. The site has picked out a color scheme. They've often done Edwards as a really fancy, markups of when you pick your colors. I'm used to just little squares, but it's very similar to Impeach.
Yes.
Right, and it's
I saw a couple of MPH's colors, which is good for us because we carry less paint. So.
Yeah. And that's one of the things as people have picked colors for their schools. Jim's tried. I mean, we're not successful all the time with just needs. But like if you can pick a same color, then he just has to buy, 1 or 2, 5 different colors, and each school can.
What? That was not my choice.
Except for the high school.
That's not my choice.
We have a color wheel.
This was me. I would not have done that. Come on, man, don't.
We're good. Okay. LAE, we installed a new fire system in the kinder area, horn system, so they can actually hear the alarm if it's going off. That's
There's a big issue over there for the 3 kinders. They had no alarm audible sound. So we put one right in the hallway and it echoes throughout the whole area. They might want to change it later.
Yeah, we did some roof repair in the hallway, new gutters installed again.
Yes.
Okay, and then the bollards and gates in the parking lot. We don't have as much snow play and trash in LAE, although we do at every site. But we have a lot of weekend parking lot activity, like just park your car, walk to your vacation home, or park, have a party and 20 cars in the parking lot. So, so it's just to limit the amount of people who are parking, because in the winter, especially, it gets in the way of when they may come to work on a Sunday to plow.
We're plowing around cars. And I think the last snowstorm, we had 4 cars parked. So we're trying to plow around. So these ones have really worked out great in Italy. We've had a lot of positive comments recently.
They're good.
And I've only had one call on a weekend when someone's been like, I know I was not supposed to park here, but someone must have been, it was here at the school, and it was actually on Easter. So a staff member must have come, and someone came in and parked. Well, the staff person must have left because all of a sudden they couldn't get out of the parking lot. There's and to be honest, I called Jim and I were talking, and I said, I'll throw a couple texts out if anyone's in the area and can stop by, but it's Easter, we have to pay double time, and we're not going to do that. So sorry. If it was an emergency, like, oh, my medicine was, we would of course rush and call everyone we needed, but the person was like, I guess I can wait till Monday. It's like, okay. So I don't even have keys, thank goodness, to those gates. So I didn't have to have that guilt of, okay, I'll run up. So River High has a lot of exciting things. The first one, and I'll let you go, Jim, too, is the scoreboard donation project. It's had a little bit of a hiccup, but it's more on the DSA side and nothing we can't handle.
Yeah, we actually we have the structural engineer, his plans came back yesterday, and then electrical engineer should come back hopefully Monday or Tuesday. And we should have them submitted back in the DSA by June 1st.
Probably going to end up having what additional costs of 10 to 15,000 over what we thought. But to get a $250,000 donation of these work boards and what it's going to offer us, we've been able to identify facility fund dollars. I think a couple payments will come out of your budget.
Just an electrical draw for the scoreboard and the football field is a lot more than originally thought. So the basketball courts, those will be a lot easier. It's mainly the football. Where it's going to be a little extra money for the electrical work to get the power actually out to the school. But luckily we have it in the dungeon. So just bring it from there over to the scoreboard. So we should be all right.
So Jim, what's the timeline looking on for the school?
I can't say because I don't know how long DSA will take to approve it or what else will make us jump through to get it approved.
Hopefully DSA gets real busy with all the ESSER 2 money and people who need projects.
Yeah,
They'll just
projects. That's what we're hoping.
So, they'll want to clean off their desks to anticipate a lot more work coming their way.
Depending on how fast that goes through, the contractors are ready to go. The LCD screen has already been bought and put together wherever it's being done at.
Right.
The electricians already have all their equipment and supplies ready to go. So just mainly working with DSA to get them to give us a green light. We put new carpet in the 300 wing ramp. There was people that were falling. So that's taken care of now. We put new bollards in the staff parking lot.
That's good on Mr. Olson's flip flops, right? Coming down that ramp.
Yes. We got roof repaired in the security office and also over the 100. We got new heaters in room 114 and 115. And then we got the pole lights replaced and working in the back driveway. In the back of the school.
That goes behind the PAC.
Basically, everything outside is all converted to LCD or LED. LED. And we only have the gym, the 2 gyms and the PAC left here.
Okay, next slide. All right, MPH, we had, again, we've done so much exterior paint work. We installed 180 feet of new rain gutters, that do protect the fascia and the paint. New hot water circulation pump in the locker rooms, roof repair in the cafeteria, new heaters in rooms B22 and B23. And Mountain High, we have a repair that we've done, temporary repairs on that will be an extensive repair done. We have a picture of it in the presentation of a main pipe that goes outside of Mountain High, that feeds Mountain High and the maintenance yard. So that was, I think, a headache for you for about a week. It just, went from the 60s, the pipe,
Fix one area, put a bandage here, and then the next week area blew. And it blew on Sunday. Or Saturday.
I think it was Saturday. Yeah. And then on top of that, root problems,
yes.
Which were, I mean, we didn't save it, but one of the, Jen walked into the district office carrying a piece of the root. And literally it was like a boulder. And it's all wrapped around.
Far side of the bleachers. The tree, there's a 4-inch line that runs directly through the middle of it.
And it's just the joys of living in the mountains with the roots. I mean, we all do it at home also, so take care of them.
So we'll have a more intensive fix right over summer, when we can shut down the school for a longer period of time. We put a bandage on it for now until we have school finish up.
And we did some asphalt repair in the main driveway, and that, like I spoke earlier, we removed 3 aging and deteriorated portables at Ground View. But I mean, every site got a little TLC. Okay. So recent projects that aren't necessarily at a school site, with Jim's department, new truck plowblade, new flatbed, tilt trailer for our scissor lift, salt spreader. We completed phase 1 of the roof replacement at LGEC and going to be doing phase 2, and we're continuing district-wide burglar panel upgrades, and that includes fire also, and that's just been something that's long term. All right, we'll just go through.
Wow, look at that paint job.
I'll let you talk about the pictures, and these pictures are stuff we've just talked about.
So it's a 300 hallway at the high school. In the back drive at the high school, with the new lighting. The front bollards for the parking lot here at the high school, and also the sitting blocks by the library that we had repaired. That's the bollards at LAE. Wrap on the front, and then there's cattle gates in the front. Past that truck. And then one of the new heaters that we had installed. And that's our new tilt belt trailer to pull the scissor lift from school to school for the electrician. We put all the lights in cafeterias. And then the new plow blade for one of the trucks. We're trying to get all of our old ones out in maybe 1 year, so we can get all of them replaced.
That's a picture of the before and after one of the repairs of the pipe. I mean, there was several.
You can see down there on the top, it's probably about 8 or 10 inch root. We had to cut out to even get to the pipe.
And that's just nice clean parking lot at Grand View.
Instead of seeing those old ports.
Okay, some of our future projects, because we were on a 3-year plan of the paint that we paint at our elementary schools. So we did a Hoffman last year, VOE this year, and LAE will be in the next year. And then MPH. Then we'll continue the VOE painting will continue into next fiscal year. The second half of the Lake Gregory roof replacement. We annually service all of our generators. We need a fire alarm upgrade at VOE, a fire alarm upgrade at CG. We just talked about the water main in Mountain High. We are in the process already. It's been board approved to replace 18 broken windows at MPH. And then going to the June 10th board meeting, we'll have a contract with Paul from CPM to do an air quality assessment district-wide and look at options for airflow, air quality. Are there places that we could replace current systems, kind of more like for like, And are there any places that we can have new type of systems within a certain dollar amount? That would be the ESSER, a combination of ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funds. Okay. So this is really needs pending availability. And I think this was when we did wish list with the ESSER money, rekeying of the entire district and going to like a key card has been on people's lists for years. That would be, if you were to look at a bond again, that would be something definitely I think a lot of people would like. We need furniture upgrades and in classrooms, modern day learning styles, continued HVAC upgrades. We have the remaining LED lighting. We need additional grounds equipment. They use more, maybe large household and household size equipment. We really need to, when funds become available, invest in more industrial, commercial type equipment.
So we get the job done quicker.
So we are in talks, some kitchen equipment replacement. Now we might be able to identify some of the ESSER 2 and 3 funds for the kitchen. We need a district-wide 10-year roof resurfacing. We need to just keep that going. We have a future desire to address carpet and flooring needs district-wide. Additional cloud pumps. We continue work on a formal preventative maintenance plan, and we would like to eventually get mobile use of school food and have equip our maintenance team with technology, and that would either be equipping them with cell phones so they can do their work orders, or they can even order parts through it, or maybe iPads.
We're not wasting time going back and forth to schools. If we have something we can send out to them while they're out in the field, we're stopping them back and forth.
I know you've mentioned school food a couple of, I think this is the third year that I remember hearing about it, and I'm really excited by it because it sounds like we have increased efficiencies in terms of not, ultimately it might pay for itself. So I'm hopeful that it would be something that, and also from what I understand from what you've described, it could also provide a communication device to be able to let people know what the status is on their projects.
Yes.
So, I think that would be fantastic.
Okay, and then just last but not least, before questions, just our funding options. Our current contribution from the base, is $1.4 million. The minimum required this year, you start with a minimum baseline, and then you adjust that when you close the books was 1.1. Our remaining measured W funds are just under $200,000, $164,479. There is an agenda item, I believe, on this this board that would utilize some of these funds if it's passed. So this does not include what might be on the agenda today. Okay. We have state facility dollars, 121,000 and some change remaining, 40, which has been paying the Gregory roofing. And before the COVID money came, it helped with the servers, I believe, in the past. We have loss prevention dollars at the JPA, and we can put this is our money, but it's at the JPA. We can put claims in for it or ask for reimbursement, but it has to coincide with a loss prevention plan, or maybe there's a portable ramp that needs to be replaced because there's rust going through. We could put that in. So once we've exhausted some of these monies, we do have 30,000 a year gets deposited into that on our behalf, and then so sometimes it's nice to let it build up over time. We can do maybe one project with it, or have a year that we have to fund Jim at the minimum, and then he can tap into these for safety related items, but they do make you go through a process, so you can't just spend it on anything. We have developer fees, 455,841 is in the balance right now, and currently we are undergoing our 5-year the study where we have to do a 5-year study on if they're justified or not, justification study. So we are working, I think the ball's on our part. We have some things to get to the consultant and to work on, and then they'll present to the board probably end of June or in August at that board meeting, depending on when they get done. And then, then the question mark is, do districts right now pursue another bond in either 2022 or 2024? And so those would be our next two opportunities. There's some language in the state budget, parcel tax, to ease the percentage required to pass that. So it might be something we start the conversation with. 2022 might be too soon. So, but we would want to throw it out there and just see what
we could do.
Any questions?
I think everybody should use that one blue. I'm just kidding. That has a special base. I cannot even pick a paint. It needs a special base.
We're working.
Just saying. I just think it's fun.
I didn't know that. We need a special base underneath it.
No, it's a special base to make the color.
Oh, okay.
You cannot make it in the store.
That's a new hit. Okay.
I didn't.
So just like.
I just have a question.
Yes.
The monies that we got from the insurance claim at Grandview, is that money that's already listed in here?
No, because that's held in Fund 1 reserves.
And is that also available for repairs and maintenance?
If the board chose to designate that, yes, because right now it's sitting in reserves. And so until we could take board action, and we have two pots of money sitting in Fund 1 reserves. We when we swept Fund 14, 10 years ago, I think in 2012 or something like that, the district swept funds from the deferred maintenance account because we were allowed to that year. So let's hold it over there. And then we have when we bought out the claim for the Grandview damage still sitting there. So we just need to bring that to board if we wanted to, take it out of there and use it for something specific. It's an easy function. We just need to have it be an agenda item. But yes, it could be for any of his projects.
Fantastic. So it's in addition to what's listed there.
Yes.
Thanks.
I just wanted to say, I've been amazed with the progress that your staff has made since we've come on this board, and I'm sure we'll continue on. I'm amazed at the fact that you handled almost 1,000 work orders or processed through them since in less than a year's time, since July to now. So just kudos. I think we all see it. The community sees it. I get a lot of comments, especially about CHE. People are still talking about the new paint there. And I think it's good progress that I'm glad to see that we're staying on top of things like this. So I know it's not everything. I know we need a lot, but the progress that has been made is noticeable.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, 10.3, Student Learning and Achievement, AV Report, Heather Dominguez, Director of Educational Services in RHS and MPH teams.
Well, good evening, board members and our superintendent and cabinet and our very few audience members who are still hanging with us. This is one of my favorite presentations because I know what an impact the AVID program has on our students, and that always just is the best. So we have some representatives here this evening from RHS and from MPH to talk about AVID across the district. We're going to start with MPH because that's where it starts, and then we have an articulated program, which is lovely, where we have it available at our middle school and then on into the high school. So we'll kind of see the progress through that, how the students progress through the program. So first we have our principal, Jennifer Whiteside, to talk about MPH AVID programs. Welcome.
Well, again, good evening to our esteemed board members, superintendent, cabinet. We do appreciate the opportunity to share with you about AVID. And if you see me often, you know I get excited about MPH, so forgive me if I get a little pumped. That's kind of how I roll. Really excited about our school. As Mrs. Dominguez indicated, we've been working hard on the articulation in terms of working with our high school team. Mrs. Erlinger does a phenomenal job and all the team at the high school, and we are really trying to increase in terms of our leadership goals in that articulation, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and up to the awesome programs that they have here. So I'm excited to share these things with you. So if you want to click on Mr. Malone. So this first slide that you see is our program highlights. And essentially, we're doing our AVID certification. We choose our goals and we work as a team in terms of the areas that we want to improve upon. And so AVID goals in terms of MPH site-wide, we look at instruction, we look at those Wicker strategies, we look at focus notes. If you remember, these used to be called Cornell notes. You know, the quick write. So we're really looking at all those engaging strategies that we can take into the AVID program, but also that we extend into the English programs. So as you'll see, as you kind of flip through, there's quite a bit. I won't explain every slide in detail, but we do a write-off every year for AVID, but it goes through all English classes. And so you'll see who our winners are in there, which is really exciting to see. That second bullet was systems. Again, that collaboration. We really enjoy the opportunity to collaborate with RIM Ed Foundation, with RIMS AVID, and having those meetings monthly with the high school as well as with MPH. And so those systems are things that we're trying to put in place that, okay, if you do this in AVID in 6th grade, what are you doing in 7th grade to go to 8th grade? We are very hopeful to bring back some of the activities next year when we have opportunity to go back with the field trips and going to the colleges and things like that. You know, and leading up to that really cool 5-day trip that the high school does. So lots of exciting things we're pumped to bring back. We're trying to keep our momentum right with this year, not lose that ground that we've had. And again, with 6th grade, this I believe is our 2nd year with AVID in 6th grade. So having it in all 3 grade levels is really exciting, especially those 6th graders. You probably saw the video last year, if you remember. They get so excited about, let me show you how to do a binder check. And they shake it and they're so pumped because nothing falls out, because that's a thing. So leadership, again, looking at that transparency with our site budget and our goals. And so you see that in the next slides coming, and then building that culture. We are working with Hogan Flowers at the county level to look at what possibilities we could do in the future to bring AVID Excel to our ELD electives. Because there's been some really great research on how that can be supported to our students and kind of combining that ELD framework with AVID Excel. So we are looking into that in the future to expand our AVID and our culture. So click on. That's that breakdown in terms of our financials. So what you'll see in SIPSA is on this slide, and kind of as it aligns to our goals. Goal 1 point, whatever is instruction point something. So 1.7 is our elective programs. And so that's where you'll see that if you're looking at our SIPSA. On the next slide, you'll see our allocation from the RIM Ed Foundation. Unfortunately, we couldn't do those field trips this year, but we do want to make sure that we do bring those back next year. We're excited for those opportunities. And then also the PSAT. I understand that the one, not the one through Khan Academy, great. Khan Academy is lovely, but they wanted to do the one that was paper pencil that we've done in the past. The students had a little bit more efficacy in buying wood. So definitely want to bring that back too. So next slide there. So in terms of our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, if you're looking at that slide, that was each of our team members. And again, I want to give a shout out to our team at MPH real quick. Our AVID coordinator, Mrs. Phillips, she's done a phenomenal job with our certification. It was not required last year during the pandemic and the shutdown, also not required this year. And we were one of the first to turn it in both years and do a phenomenal job. So again, her hard work is amazing. She has a huge heart for our AVID program. And along with that, so she does our 8th grade AVID elective. We have Mrs. Daniels, absolutely phenomenal teacher with our 7th grade AVID. And then 6th grade AVID, we have Mrs. Marinaro. Again, a phenomenal team. If you've had a chance to go into their classrooms, you can see just the excitement that they bring to the students and how encouraging they are. It's a different relationship with the kids in AVID. So if you've ever coached, you kind of know what I'm talking about. So you flip that slide for us. Program highlights, that kind of gives you an idea of where we were at with AVID students. We did see a little bit of a dip because this year with some of our students remaining on distance learning and our distance learning options with ROWUSD where don't have that added option for them. So that's why you might see a little bit of dip this year, but we are looking at our scheduling for next year and hope to go right back up. So as you're looking at those numbers. So little disclaimer at the bottom, these pictures were taken pre-pandemic. As you see some of the students in the pictures there, we do look forward to that opportunity when they can get back into the tutorials like we once did. We just looked at our funding for our CPA for next year for bringing our AVID tutors back and keeping that in our master schedule. We strategically plan AVID period 4, 5, and 6 so we could best utilize that one AVID tutor to go through those periods. And so this one's AVID school-wide. You can see just kind of, so like when I talked about the English write-off that they do. So, and you probably saw this in the newspaper, but Ashley Glancy, Kaylee Serrato, Gabriel Kellis being our winners for those write-offs. We're so proud of our kids, especially when middle school students don't always place. And then you see an MPH middle school student place, and you're like, yes, it's my kids. I get pumped. So you'll click on there for me. These are some of those field trips of the past that we're excited to hopefully bring back. They've gone to Fiesta Village, they've gone to Cal State San Bernardino, they've gone to UCR. Having those opportunities to build that camaraderie in the beginning of the year. And then, you know, take those college trips because we want to get them excited as early as we can, get them college and career ready. So click on there. Those are a couple of quotes of what AVID students are saying. If you go back to the highlights where I looked at what do we do during distance learning, I didn't go into too much detail, but some of the things that they were doing were actually pretty unique this year in terms of their interactive notebooks and the citing textual evidence. But I love the second quote there, just highlighting in there about how they think about both sides of the situation. I think that's so important for our students to be able to do that and critically analyze and cite textual evidence, and they're really diving in that realm in our AVID classes. So it's exciting to see. On there. So dive deeper into AVID, as you saw last year, just giving you that visual as you click through those slides. Some of the things that you will see in terms of, like when you go into our classrooms, you're going to see a college wall in all our classrooms, not just the AVID classes. When you see our students on campus, and we vary this year in terms of Wednesday or Friday, but college wear days, you know, where we're encouraging our students to learn more about the various colleges and what their opportunities can be as early as possible. And then some of the things like Wicker that you see pretty frequently in terms of instructional strategies, that 3-ring binder that our students love. So again, you'll see kind of a repeat in the past, but if you haven't seen one of our presentations before, with basically what they do, what focus notes look like, that procedure, and just how adept our middle school kids get at the annotating and really diving in again, citing that textual evidence. So really exciting things there. So as you kind of click through. The last piece that I gave to you in the packet that's not in the slideshow is actually our county AVID resources. And we actually do dive into these. And one of our most exciting pieces, I think our AVID team likes to be part of, is we do a December AVID PD together in Palm Desert, and we get a lot of work done there. A lot of our goal preparation, a lot of our opportunities for really diving into how are we going to wisely spend our AVID funds for the best of our students and to ensure that these programs thrive. And so if you look at that little, kind of looks like this page where it says RIMS AVID certification and resources. Well, this is a guide for us in terms of how we get certified. We do actually dive into these resources to look at the different options and different things that are going to work best in our classes. And again, this year, real big on grace, right? You know, looking at how do you do tutorials online? How do you do a Socratic seminar through Zoom? How do you put kids in breakout rooms and give them these opportunities? But one of the great parts was when our students came back on campus, and Mrs. Martinoro's 6th grade class, they were outside, and they were doing an activity called Would You Rather. And they said, come on, Miss Whiteside, come hang out, come play with us, right? It was this really great critical thinking strategy where she gave them these topics, right? So I jumped in and they said, would you rather be invisible or be able to tell the future? And you had to give your your defense for why you chose one or the other, and they put me on the spot. And at that point, March 29th, first day back in hybrid, I said, I want to know the future. Because I like to plan the 21-22 school year as best as we can. So, and the kids thought that was pretty fun here. At least I think they did. So it was just really cool to see our kids who especially, they didn't know who I was. They hadn't seen me in person. And here are our sixth graders, really excited, really articulate. And now based on that, they see me every morning. So, which is cool to make those relationships. So any questions though?
I love Avid. I just love Avid.
Yeah.
Mark, I love Avid.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Your Mrs. Earlier, you talked about high school topic. Okay, so I can't read that from up there, so I'm gonna have it up here so that I can kind of go through some of the points with you. So as far as what AVID looked like this year with a pandemic year, which was unique and the first time I've ever done that, everyone else I'm sure. We were able to continue on with our tutorials virtually, which was a really great benefit to our program. We were able to sustain our tutors twice a week with our students. And now that we're back, what we're doing with the hybrid program is we have our tutors coming in Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we have students have the option of continuing online and getting that access to support, which a lot of our juniors especially, we found that they need in this unique situation that we're experiencing. The other thing that we continued this year as far as systems in place for our high school AVID program is we continued with the college application help class. That's a program that I'm really excited about because I've noticed that, I think we've noticed as like kind of a team, that one of the things that our students are really lacking is sometimes guidance in the college application process. And our AVID students are given that support, but we want to provide that support more on a school-wide level, like Ms. Whiteside said. She was talking about bringing AVID to a school-wide sort of focus. So we have Cindy Gardner that's there every time we meet, and we have Julie Scorzell, who's an independent college application she's a counselor. College, she's a counselor. She's through the UCR program.
So she's been an incredible support to our students and donated her time even outside of the program to look at personal statements for our kids outside of AVID as well. This year, we were able to pull some representatives from various universities to speak to our AVID students. So because we were in a virtual year, it was a good year to have presentations because we were unable to go on physical field trips. So Cal State Fullerton came in for an admissions presentation, and we were able to have some students from former years come and visit in order to give some insights into what college is like in the pandemic year and in a normal year for our kids. And we had Cal Baptist come as a representative to discuss, and GCU, to discuss, admissions and what's available from those universities, because they do get a lot of applications from our site, and they really do like our students. This year, we're planning the 5-day field trip to capture both the junior and senior levels. So we are planning it for the week of September 20th. The charter bus so far is booked. We will be seeing a larger group of students that will be participating because there are 2 grade levels that we will be bringing with us on our 5-day field trip north. That program is really important for our kids because it gives them access to universities that they really had no idea existed or didn't know were a possibility for their futures. So we found it to be really a great experience, and we always have students that have graduated from RIM who will join us on campus and give us a little bit of insight into what it's like to be on that campus. And it's nice to have that little visit from home to give the kids perspective of what life looks like off the mountain. This year, we welcomed a new elective teacher into our program. Last year, we had Mr. Olson, who joined us as a freshman teacher. So this is now his second year as an elective teacher. And now we have Ms. Steinmeier, who is now taking on our sophomores. So it's been really great to see that growth in the program. Next year, we are adding a additional elective. So we will have, this is our second year of 4 full grade levels. And now next year, we are adding a second freshman class. So this is due to this idea of sort of recovering students' learning loss, because we know that AVID is a program that supports students in how to be a student and how to study and how to become better students, how to advocate for themselves, which are all those social emotional skills that are so important for our students to be able to overcome and be successful on a high school or college campus or at a job or anywhere in life. So we're excited to add hopefully 2 new elective teachers this next year so that we can continue to grow the program and have more site and staff members that are trained in AVID strategies and utilizing them in their classrooms, not only for our electives, but outside of our electives in the content areas. As Ms. Whiteside said, we meet monthly as a subcommittee to discuss goals and achievement within the program. And we find that this process is vital to the strength of our program, because through that discussion, we are able to meet as a team with Ms. Burke as our district liaison and the principal of the site, and then with Ms. Whiteside. And then in addition, we have both coordinators there, and oftentimes our elective teachers like Mr. Olson tends to attend, and our RIM Ed Foundation is there as sort of this input and committee that gets a lot of things accomplished and a lot of goals articulated. So it's been a really useful sort of check-in every month. I do have kind of like a stack if you go down to student testimonials. So some of the things that our students are saying at the high school is about, and you guys can go through this later because I know it's hard to see up there, but they talk about how AVID has been more than just a class for them, but more of like a family and a support system. A lot of students have talked about how without AVID, they don't know exactly how they would have gotten to these next steps with college. So we've had some, so I added some of those if you want to look through those later. I don't want to take your time by reading them. As far as our data and our stats for the senior class, so this year our GPA actually went up. I believe last year our cumulative GPA was at a 3.3. This year our UC GPA is at a 3.47 for our 23 graduating seniors. None of our seniors in the AVID class were able to access the SAT or ACT this year due to, issues with scheduling. But their PSAT average, because I gave you their SAT average last year, was a 965 with 100% participation. Ms. Dubois, our counselor, who is specific to the AVID program, every year has ensured that all of our sophomores and juniors take the PSAT, and AVID actually has paid for the PSAT for those students every single year, because getting that first and then second exposure to that exam is proven to raise test scores, and our students need access to, some of those experiences. So, and she is bringing back, she said, the PSAT next year. That is on her agenda. The average number of years for our senior class of being in the AVID program came out to 4.5. I'm not exactly sure how that works with full years, but we'll go with it. Students that have taken an AP class, we have 22 out of 23 of our graduating seniors have participated in at least one AP class. Students that have passed at least one AP exam, we have 14 out of 23 students that passed one of the AP exams they attempted. Students that were accepted into a four-year university, 21 out of 23 of our graduating seniors, or 91%, were accepted into a four-year university. All were considered Cal State eligible and UC, A through G approved. So I have a long list of classes taken by our AVID students as far as AP classes. So you can tell that they all did participate, or at least the vast majority participated in a rigorous course load and have access to college level courses. We had quite a few students pass the Spanish language, bio, world history, and US history exams so far. There are more students that have taken AP exams this year, this week, in fact. So I guess we'll find out how that went. So this year we did have 11 out of 23 AVID students earn the seal of biliteracy. which is a special sort of accolade for them in graduation. In addition, those students, that means that they passed the AP Spanish test, so that's quite the achievement for those students. Our acceptance list is also quite long, so you can kind of scroll through and see. Our students were accepted to every UC with the exception of UCLA, but we do have 1 or 2 that were waitlisted, so we'll find out probably, and after they've already accepted somewhere else, that they can now go to UCLA. I'm not sure how that works. But we had Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and quite a few were accepted to Pomona. Our Cal State acceptance rate was quite high this year, which was really nice. We had quite a few students who were accepted or opted to go to private schools, whether locally or out of state. We had quite a few out of state schools that students applied to as well this year. I know that we do have students that will be attending all 3 UCs, private, Cal States, and we do have, I think, 1 that's planning on attending a school out of state this year. All right, so our next steps. So we know that Abbott's mission is to go school-wide, and so with that, we have some strategies and things that need to be more implemented across curriculums and across classroom content areas. So one of the ways we do that is through training. Training has been slightly limited just because of the pandemic. They're not offering things like path trainings, which are trainings that are content-specific trainings, which a lot of our teachers would be interested in attending because it's very, easily translated. So that I can use this tomorrow because you're talking to me as a social studies teacher, as opposed to theoretical trainings about, something that can't easily translate into your day-to-day. So we're hoping to see those come back. They're thinking maybe second semester, that will be an option. We have a coach, Kelly, who was mentioned in the MPH presentation, who is very willing to come up and do certain staff-wide, site-wide, district-wide trainings that we think would be kind of nice to have, things like focus notes or academic language and literacy. So ways to sort of appeal to more of our student population. And we're also specifically thinking of ways that we can appeal and benefit our EL students. What else? One of the things we've identified as a need in the past is that our students are in need of more counseling when it comes to financial aid and the FAFSA. So this year, Ms. Dubois did bring on 2 line-by-line clinics online for how to fill out the FAFSA. And I went to one of them and it was really specific. By the end, you could submit the document. But we did have low attendance, so we're trying to capture more student interest in these kind of things because a lot of the students do need support, but we need to find ways to sort of capture those students inside and outside, because I think that is part of Abbott school-wide, is making sure that all students have access to more of this information and more assistance. Yeah, one of the things that I know I brought into the presentation last year, but just to reiterate, it would be a really cool thing if Abbott could be part of onboarding. Something that we have, as everybody who sort of comes in, gets some kind of taste of the Abbott program or becomes a part of the Abbott program. There's other districts that do that, and I think it's a really successful way to sort of bring everyone together, especially because Summer Institute is such an incredible opportunity for professional development, and it provides a sense of sort of community and camaraderie. And I think that it would be great to have more teachers involved and using some of the strategies that we do in Abbott. I think I covered everything. Ms. Burke, did I leave anything? Okay. Are there any questions?
No, I'm on Scholarship Council, run the World Community Scholarship Council, and it was interesting. We had 32 applicants. All 32 are getting scholarships, but quite a bit from Abbott. So it was obvious that part of the push is not only just to challenge yourself to take an AP class or any of that, and the college search support, but you telling them there's lots of money in your community, go for it. And they took advantage of it. And so that was really great to see. And it was also really great to see how many of them, 4 years of Abbott or more, they started in middle school. So it was really nice to be able to see that progression in the scholarships, and a couple of them talked about Avid and being an Avid. So it was really great to see that whole flow that you're talking about of the program. They also all applied to the Dell Scholarship this year. As long as they were eligible. It's not eligible for all of our students, but the majority of them are eligible to apply for the Dell Scholarship. And yeah, it might have been an assignment to apply to the Mountains Communities Scholarship as well. I think it was great. I think it was great. And the community readers were they were like, wow, that's just amazing what they've done. And so it was great for our community readers to see how many kids have gone through the AVID program. We also have a Blue and Gold Scholarship recipient for the UC Blue and Gold Scholarships. So we do have a student who will be attending a UC with a full scholarship because that student was eligible for the Blue and Gold Scholarship through the UCs.
This is something that I haven't been able to help as much as I'd like to in the AVID classrooms, but what I've seen historically is so impressive in that the students are taking responsibility for their education, seeing how the tutorials work and how they're really driving their own education, taking initiative when they need help, the way that they're able to participate in academic discussions and using academic language. It's just really impressive. And I agree with you that it would be really helpful to have this kind of approach pervasive throughout possibly all grades, even going to elementary school. It's a different dynamic that's really exciting to see.
So what percentage of our teachers are using AVID principles? Because you said you're trying to increase that too.
Yeah, so we have a site training document and it shows how many of our teachers have been AVID trained. We can try to pull it up. I think it's like, we're not quite at 50%. Not, maybe 30%. Does that sound about right? Okay. So we're approximately at 30% of our staff is AVID trained. So the goal has always been to capture at least one member of each department. At least that's kind of my personal goal, because I figure if I can get an advocate from each department, then that advocate can start sort of utilizing more of the strategies within their department. So our math advocate is sitting right back there, Mr. Wilson. And then I teach English. So, and we do have a second member of our department who is currently AVID trained, and then another one who is planning on becoming AVID trained probably this summer. And then we're looking to get somebody trained in the foreign language department, and we have a history teacher that has had like a small training, but we have had some turnover or retirements of teachers who were fully AVID trained in the last few years. So that's sort of, I've had to delete them off my list, which is painful because I have to submit it for certification. So, yeah.
And on a different note, it appears that the UCs might be changing the tools that they use, like ACT, SAT. So as you look to the future, what are you thinking about how AVID may have to change because of that?
Well, so one of the things that we've been doing is we're changing the conversation. So for next year, we are still encouraging students to take standardized tests, simply because those tests are being used to account for scholarships, especially at private universities. And a lot of out-of-state universities haven't changed the requirements for our students taking, standardized exams. But as far as the class itself, I think the kids are probably going to be a little bit thankful if they don't have to spend as much time SAT prep on Khan Academy, but because it's kind of like one of those side notes that they have to do in class. But our conversations have largely stayed the same because the goal is still the same. So as far as the way that we alter with that, we talked about the importance of getting involved in school. So at the beginning of every year, I challenge students to involve themselves in something on campus, whether it be a club or something athletic, something that they do on campus that they can add to their resume in their college applications, because sometimes students sort of don't think of it in those terms. And now those activities are that much more important because our Cal States are going to be looking at a more holistic snapshot of the kid, which could be a great benefit to our students. This year, we saw some pretty impressive acceptances, especially for Cal States with our graduate and senior class.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Erlinger. Okay. 10.4, setting direction, legislative update report, trustee Gardner.
So I'm gonna get kind of quick. AB 309, AB 437. So many of these, the bills actually, not 437, I'm sorry, that's teacher credentialing, but AB 309, 563, 856, and 883. So many bills are about mental health services to students, social emotional learning, supports, and it ties directly into what you're seeing at the state and federal level, especially the state budget in terms of support for mental health services. So these bills are really tying into what Governor Newsom and others see as just a great need that has come out of this pandemic. What the other big, huge thing is in terms of teacher credentialing. The pipeline, there's money in the governor's budget to try to attract teachers. And there's bills that we've talked about before that would make it easier for teachers to get in their credentialing, other ways that they can, whether it's SAT scores or course grades of B or better, all these different ways will help replenish the teacher pipeline. What I really want to talk about from CSBA Delegate Assembly, Jordan, you're going to cry, but the fair and full funding that CSBA was driving that did not get put on the ballot. They allowed the other bill to go forward because of the polling that CSBA has continued to do on fair and full funding. They have decided to put this on hold. There is no plan to put it either on the 22 or 24 ballot. So because the polling is just not there. They also don't have the funding sources at this point, the millions and millions of dollars that would take to really get it moving. So Jordan, your heart is broken. No fair and full funding at this time, which was devastating and actually ticked off a lot of people because CSBA members really wanted to go forward with the fair and full funding and not back the bill that was being pushed by CTA. It didn't get ugly, just saying it was worked out, but just disappointing on so many levels. Another big bill that isn't on here that we've talked about before is the raise bill, AB 438. That is the one that would have CSEA have the same layoff timeline as the union RTA. This really restricts the way the districts can pivot based on declining enrollment or budget adjustments. We've had some years where we've had cuts mid-year because the state budget was cut, and this bill would really limit the ability for districts to be able to do their job and adjust staffing mid-year. We heard a little bit about it in the webinar today. It's really something that is very disconcerting and on the watch list for everybody. And the other thing that was just so fascinating in the Delegate Assembly and in the caucus is the late start bill, AB 328, my favorite bill ever. So there are school districts like Chaffee that are going to implement it next year because they have been starting high school later and now they can't. High school districts that are all high school, of course, it's a little bit easier, but there are districts that are like, wow, this is going to cost a lot of money. How are we going to do this? la, 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 la. And I'm like, where have you been for the last couple of years? And why did you not advocate harder to kill this bill? To put the pressure on the lawmakers and Senator Portantino to say, this bill, this is a local control decision. How come you guys didn't join the party when I was such a witch up in Sacramento about what this would do to districts like ours? Luckily, we are in the exempt category. No, I'm just kidding. That was so mean. But I'm saying is that where were the districts then? CSBA right now has put out a survey, so to speak, of gathering evidence of how this bill would impact your district in terms of finances, because they intend to call that information and send and give it to Senator Portantino, the author of this bill. Remember, Bill, you weren't here, but the fact that Senator Portantino in the hearing that I attended literally said that we have smart people in our district. If we really wanted to implement this bill, we could, and it doesn't need to cost extra money for implementation. And everybody was, and Jenny and I were like, what is he talking about? Jenny she and Jen Kaywell, I had numbers, I had 7 bus options that were crazy. And the best part was hearing Connie Leyva, Senator Connie Leyva, the chair of the education committee, literally say, I cannot understand how anybody voted for this bill after you told your story. And that was the whole, and so as I'm hearing people talk about this bill and the issues that they're going to have with implementation, I'm like, why didn't you tell your lawmakers your story? Put together bus transportation schedules and money that it would cost. Why didn't you do that years ago? How come you're so late to the party? It was mind-blowing to me that this is like, wait a second, what? And I'm just like, well, I don't know, maybe you should have did your job earlier. So that was interesting. So sorry to break your heart on the fair full funding. I knew that you were going to be disappointed. On the federal advocacy update, which you also guys have in your folder, a couple things is on the Senator Biden's American Families Plan, some of the things, the universal pre-K expansion, kind of in line with Governor Newsom's idea. Free community college is interesting, really interesting. You know, his wife is a community college professor and very much into that. Pell Grant increases, which is always great for our low-income families. And then the expansion of the food aid program, which is expanded to June of next year. But this is really kind of laying the foundation for universal meal programs to be completely not to be permanent. So that was pretty interesting as well on the federal side. The last thing I want to talk about, we get a legislative report that delves into court cases that could potentially impact districts. And the one that I thought was really interesting for us as a board was LA Unified versus the Los Angeles County Superior Court. So what happened is that LA Unified got sued by some parents seeking these side letters, these communications, both in closed session and emails discussing the decisions up to at the distance learning requirements in SB 98. And they were like, well, we're suing you because we want all communications, even your confidential stuff from closed session and any emails dealing with it, even though they're technically about negotiations or closed session. And LA Unified so sued the court and said, yeah, you can't do that. We're subject to Brown Act. You can't do that because the whole idea was if the parents won this and the court forced this issue, then it's a slippery slope. That means that we could be forced to disclose all confidential information internal communications regarding collective bargaining. Too bad our union members aren't here. They would just like come unglued at this. And then that we couldn't discuss in closed session our negotiations and our direction and our conversation. It would be all subject to be able to be like out there in the public. So CSBA got involved. They wrote a writ on that. And yeah, it's not probably going to happen, but because of the Brown Act. But that was an interesting one to be concerned about and to make sure that that doesn't become enforced, because confidentiality is really important for us to do our jobs well and to protect our unions, to protect our staff, and to be able to do our jobs the best possible way. So that was shocking. I was like, oh my God, I gotta be careful what I say. Just saying. So those are some of the big things. Oh, and one last thing on the late start bill, Nikki Denton, our pacer, she contacted me and asked if what was kind of the feedback on the late start bill in terms of our board, how we felt about it moving forward. And I said, that's interesting, because at the last board meeting, we talked about how we want to support those districts that are going to be negatively impacted, that they have very long bus routes, you know, some of the high desert ones. And so I talked about it. I said, there's districts that unfortunately aren't exempted and will have costs associated, or the bus routes will significantly negatively impact other start times. And I said, so we are in support of extending exemptions or just adding criteria that incorporates those districts, like in the high desert and stuff. So anyways, I thought it was really timely that we had that conversation and that all of us agreed that we want to support our sister districts, because that information was put into with CSBA's other information they're collecting on the late start bill. So I want to thank you guys for kind of taking that position, because it is going forward in that late start discussion for other districts. So it's not just all about us. It is about protecting each other from these basically an unfunded mandate. So, and thank you, Jenny. I just appreciate you more and more as I hear these conversations. You and Jen Kayla and Michelle. It was just like, thank goodness we did all that work. Any questions? I hope not. I know Jordan's crying here. He loved it. He was so about let's get behind the fair full funding, and now it's not going to happen. Hopefully. Thank you, Cindy. Thanks for being so active legislatively in terms of keeping on top of those things, using activists and apps. Yeah, it's real fun. Yeah, thanks. So moving on to 11.0 action calendar, 11.1 superintendent approval to revise administrative regulation AR 3320 claims and actions against the district to our policies and procedures. Fiscal impact none. So moved. Cindy? Natalie, did you? Any discussion? Calling for a vote, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 11.2 personnel services, approval of the personnel page, fiscal impact budgeted. So moved. Natalie? Second. Cindy? Any discussion? Potentially, depending on the vote. Okay. Calling for a vote, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 11.3 personnel services, approval of the memorandum of understanding MOU between Rim Teachers Association RTA and Rim of the World Unified School District to provide 2 additional mandatory professional development days for certificated contract employees for the 2021-2022 school year. Fiscal impact approximately $135,000. COVID funds, personnel. So moved. Cindy? Second. Bill, second.
Any discussion? Calling for a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 11.4, Personnel Services, approval of the memorandum of understanding MOU between REM Teachers Association, RTA, and Rome of the World Unified School District to pay certificated contract employees at a one-time $1,500, $1,500 stipend for the purpose of addressing the additional workload related to hybrid instruction, effective May 21st, 2021. Fiscal impact approximately $265,702.50.
So moved.
COVID funds personnel, moved by Bill. Second. And that was Natalie?
Correct.
Any discussion?
I just want to recognize how hard it's been to do hybrid and distance learning together, having watched LAE and see teachers teach kids on Zoom, bringing them into the classroom with the in-person kids, and being to manage the kids virtually as well as the in-person. You can see how much they've had to do and had to adjust to two different teaching styles and strategies. And I just appreciate all of their ability to go with the flow through all and work through all the frustrations. I know that it's been a lot of work for our teachers, and I know that some have felt like they're constantly hamster on a wheel, behind schedule, not behind schedule, but behind on grading their work or whatever it is. So I really just appreciate all of what you've had to experience, especially going from hybrid with the hybrid model. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
What I would add to that as well is we were grappling, I know the district was grappling with how to handle when we went back to hybrid and how to handle those students who weren't on campus and those that were on. And I find it incredibly commendable and also not surprising that the teachers chose to teach their distance students and their in-person students, hybrid students. That level of ownership for their students and care was indicative by that choice that they made, because that was one of the things that we were grappling with was at this point changing teachers after 2/3 of the school year is over to try and address those students who did not, were not going to be coming on campus. So the teachers took on such a huge load by choosing to hold on to their students. And there was a personal cost that went along with that for a lot of those teachers in trying to address every student's needs. So I appreciate that. So calling for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 11.5, Personnel Services. Approval of the Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, between California School Employees Association, CSEA, and Rome of the World Unified School District to pay a stipend for classified contract employees up to $1,500 regarding the continued implementation of services during the COVID-19 pandemic. The stipend amount is based on hours worked per day. Fiscal impact approximately $250,519.50. COVID funds personnel.
So moved.
Bill, and second. Cindy, discussion.
Same thing. I just appreciate all of the classified that came every day on campus to clean our campuses, do deep cleaning, the bus drivers painting and weeding, and everybody that worked every single day coming in, and appreciate their efforts. We can see their efforts, and I think it's commendable that, yeah. And I know Jen really is super excited about no more texts from me about like what I can paint and what I can't. So I'm just saying is that thank you to the classified.
When finances are available, what this says is we'll do what we can to say every staff person is valuable to the education of our students, every one of them, from certified, classified, administration, everybody is appreciated, and we thank you.
I'll just say that I wish it was more. I wish it could be more. If anyone has any ideas of other ways we can show appreciation for the hard work that classified staff has taken on, I am all ears. I would love to hear it. Please send me an email. Come to the farmer's market and see me at the chamber booth. I'm there almost every weekend. But I just wanted to say, I wish it was more. I wish it could be more.
Calling for the vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 11.6, Personnel Services. Approval of pay, certificated management, classified management, and classified confidential employees, a $2,250 stipend for the continued services implemented through the COVID-19 pandemic, effective 5/21/21. Fiscal impact approximately $56,936.25. COVID funds, personnel.
So moved.
Natalie,
Second,
Cindy? Any discussion?
again, I want to thank management. They've had to write their site manuals over and over and over again, matching Michelle having to do the district plan over and over again. And so, I mean, I personally saw Tori try to get bubbles out of the footprints for the footpath traffic. I know that a lot of pivoting, a lot of adjustment, a lot of thinking about how your campus is going to flow. Entrances for kids coming into the school, going out of the school, so much planning and working with the district. So thank you for all of that extra time and brain power that you guys had to expend. So thank you, thank you.
And I would say across the board, every single individual involved with RIM Unified and defining themselves doing things they never expected this year. In a lot of cases, extraordinary activity to be able to make sure that our students got the best possible that we can provide for them. Measuring out 6 feet distance between desks, whether it was teachers or administrators that were coming in to be able to make sure that there were pathways so that students can remain safe. Doing a deep cleaning in school sites, painting, everybody stepped up to do whatever they could to be able to make it a better experience for our students. And so on a small part, these stipends are a way to be able to show that all of our employees are truly appreciated. So, calling for a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 11.7, Personnel Services, approval to pay ROPCTE teachers the $1,500 stipend to address the additional workload related to hybrid instruction effective 5/21/21. Fiscal impact approximately $10,845. COVID funds, personnel.
So moved.
Second,
Bill and Cindy. Say all my previous comments apply.
I just want, I was amazed that like Pete Ferraro could actually teach wood shop and build things with his kids virtually. I walked in on him one time and I was like, what, how is this possible? So especially ROPCTE, which we think of as very hands-on, and for those teachers to convert those hands-on lessons into virtual instruction was just amazing. Again, I commend you for being able to do that. Pete, I even understood that instruction that you were giving them, and I'm an idiot when it comes to that stuff. So thank you.
Calling for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 11.8, Educational Services, approval of summer school dates for 2021 and locations for the upcoming summer. Fiscal impact to be determined, state COVID-19 relief funds.
So moved.
Natalie,
Second,
Cindy. Discussion? Calling for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 11.9, Business Services. Approval of Resolution 2021-13 to authorize temporary temporary borrowing between funds of Brentwood World Unified School District. Fiscal impact none.
So moved.
Natalie, Cindy? This is, Jenny referred to this earlier in terms of having the flexibility to be able to move funds, to be able to keep our financial world moving here. Is there any other discussion? Calling for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 11:10, Business Services, approval of the Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant, ELO plan to provide supplemental instruction and supports for students addressing learning recovery, social and emotional well-being, and additional academic services. Fiscal impact, approximately $2,141,173. State AB 86 funds.
So moved.
Natalie, Bill, second. Actually, was that Cindy? Cindy first, I'm sorry. And Bill was the second. Any discussion? So for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 12.0, consent calendar. Would you like to have any of the 12.1 through 12.16 and any poll? Any discussion on any of these? Okay, then I'm calling, actually, do I have a motion for these?
So moved.
Natalie?
Second.
Bill? Calling for the vote then, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. So 13.0, there were no items removed from the consent calendar. 14.0, governance team future agenda items planning. 14.1, time allotted for the Board of Trustees to request agenda items for future meetings. I do have one, specifically for the either the June 10th or the June 24th meeting. I think it would be helpful for us to, as a board, discuss planning for our retreat and what specifically you would like to use that time for.
So with that, Ms. President,
yes,
if we could do that maybe June 10th, because I'm going to be out of town on June 24th and be coming in, and I'm not really sure if I will be available for Zoom. I'm going to hope, but I just would feel better if we could do it June 10th, if you're okay with that.
absolutely.
I'm going to be in New Orleans, and I am working. First, I'm serious. I'm going to be working.
I believe it. Is there any other items that anybody would like to also add? Okay, so on the June 10th agenda, I want to add a light item that would be a board discussion to plan what we wish to use our time on retreat for. Then 16.0, we don't need to recess to closed session. And moving to 17.0, adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 8:21 p.m.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Natalie. All in favor? Aye.